saw this on Jess at Stalking Kafka, the channel Stalking Kafka. The channel. Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. I have a bunch of books on my lap and I feel like I'm very awkwardly holding them. So that really segues nicely into what I'm actually doing today. So what I am doing today is I'm actually talking about all the books that I received for Christmas. I did a little bit of book shopping and I'm gonna go over some numbers. I feel like maybe haul time, when I do hauls, that is actually a good time to check in with my numbers. In terms of how many books are entering my life, how many books I'm reading, unhauling, how many books are coming off of the giant TBR, as Alice would say. Alice from the Giant Bookshelf, if you don't follow her, she's amazing. And I'm jumping into the meaty meat of the video without even really introducing myself. So what we're talking about are new books and where I'm at with my goals in terms of to be read books, books that are unread on my shelves, how many books are entering my life, how many books are leaving my life, and all of that. But the bulk of this video is going to be new books. Okay? Oh my gosh. If you are new to my channel, then hi. Hi, I am Shelly. I love books and reading of all kinds, of all sorts. I really love a good book. And if you're also into that, I would encourage you to subscribe and stick around. So without any further rambling on, as I've already done in the introduction, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. We're gonna do all the numbersy stuff at the end. I have a picture of what I unhauled, what I sold back to my local bookstore. I have numbers of what I got rid of, what I acquired, books that I feel like are going to be added to my TBR, and then what I actually read, which is taking my to be read stack down. All of that is at the end. Okay, I have books that I've been gifted, books that I have acquired from a small press, and books that I chose myself from the credit that I got from my bookstore. And so let's start with actually books that were sent to me. So I have two books that were sent to me by a very small publisher, Fern Press. Fern Press. I will actually leave them, no, Fern Books. Fern Books, y'all. I know how to do this. And I've been actually talking with Lauren, who has just been a delight, a wonder, incredible. And we started talking, I believe, over Women in Translation Month, which is September, I believe. We started talking several months back, and these books got to me very recently, and I'm so excited. They were originally sent to me as PDF forms, but I was like, I will more likely read them if I actually have them in my possession. So the first one is Like a Sky Inside. And this is by Jakuta Alekvazovic. I say the same thing over and over. This is translated by Daniel Levin Becker. And here is what this book is about. In March of 2020, a young woman, my goodness, woman, myself, I need to learn how to read better. In March of 2020, a young woman spends the night in the Louvre. At home, she has her 9-month-old son. In her overnight bag, a notebook, a toiletry kit, a duvet, a cube of nougat, and something that shouldn't be there. In her head, she has the memories of the Venus de Milo, the land of art, and the American road, of romance and travel and immigration and war, and of her father, who after each of their many visits to the Louvre would ask just how she got about stealing the Mona Lisa. Oh, okay, so just would ask how she'd go about stealing the Mona Lisa. What? So what an interesting question a father poses to his daughter. So I believe it's about art and parenthood, and it sounded like my kind of book. So I have this. This is a book translated from a Bosnian writer. So I thought that was good. It was important to include. This next book, Papers, with this gorgeous cover, is by Violaine Schwartz. It was originally published in French, and it's translated by Christine Gutman. And this is about, Papers is a harrowing and enlightening portrayal of the modern refugee experience. Gathered here are voices of asylum seekers from around the world who have risked their lives to make it to France. and begun the often bewildering process of securing the right to stay. So it is about illuminating those voices, and again, I'm so glad to have a copy in my physical possession, partly because I'm more likely to read it, and partly because it's just a beautiful object to actually own and possess. I just want to take a moment of thanking Lauren from Fern Books, who reached out and for sending me these copies. I am just ever so grateful that these books were sent my way, and I'm just so happy to have them in my possession. Next is a book that I believe I'm going to read this coming December because I didn't quite get to it in this past December. And the reason why it's December, it's because it's a daily readings for Advent. It's an Advent calendar that you read, and it's by Sinclair B. Ferguson, and it's called Love Came Down at Heaven. This is from my mother, and it's just like little small daily devotionals, I believe, and things to think about during the Christmas season, which I think will be very uplifting. And again, I'm considering about slotting this in next December. I'm gonna get this big one out of the way. This is a book that my father-in-law sent our way. He sends us art books, he sends us signed books, which are actually going to be upcoming. And so this one, and if you know anything about this book, please let me know, but it's The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by Michael Plog. I've thumbed through this and it has just stunning illustrations. I will definitely take a moment to show you some of the images inside. And it is a graphic, it's like a Santa Claus graphic novel, essentially. Very beautiful and very festive. I didn't quite get to reading this during the Christmas month. Here, I'll show you some images inside though. A beautiful book. I guess I have a lot of December reading ahead of me. One that I would more likely read during Christmas than throughout the year. Or maybe we'll do like a Christmas in July and I'll read this in July. My father-in-law really likes to find rare things for myself and my family. And one of his wonderful skills is finding unique things. So he sent me some books that I think were like small press runs, and one of them is poems by Tom Savage, and the poem collection is called Processed Words. A very interesting and unique object. Yes, exactly. So it's signed by the author, and it is number 159 of the 300 that they made of this book. I'm actually sure that some of you will know more about this book than I do. I know virtually nothing, but it is called An Adolescent's Christmas, 1944 by Carol Bly. This is, I believe, a short story or a little novella by Carol Bly, and it is a memoir about a wartime Christmas in Duluth in 1944. So this was printed by the Afton Historical Society Press. It is also signed by the author, and I wonder if it'll tell me how many copies they made. Oh yes, so here's exactly the kind of thing that this is 50 copies of the first edition of this book have been numbered and signed by the author and hand bound in Minneapolis, and it tells you the bindery. So this is one of the 50 first editions of this book. Let's just continue on with the very interesting books that my father-in-law gives me. He has just a very broad and unique sense of taste when it comes to gift giving. And so another thing that he gave me, he knows that I really love this author. I actually made a sort of, not controversial, it wasn't meant to be controversial, but it was kind of meant to be a little like intriguing. And so I made a video called The Rise and Fall of Cheryl Strayed, mostly bemoaning the fact that she had this really intense career in which she had this book published, Tiny Beautiful Things, and Wild, and then it's kind of like she did a bunch of other projects, but we haven't gotten a book from her in a while. Although I believe a new book was just released, a short story collection that was just released from her. So I made a video all about her and her life and her career because I've been like a Cheryl Strayed super fan. I could have only made that book if I was a Cheryl Strayed super fan, and I am. And so I was able to make that video with very little research because most of it I have known. I've known about her career and I followed her career for a very long time. But anyways, this is Tiny Beautiful Things. I gave my copy to a friend that I hold very dear. And so I have a new copy, and it is indeed signed by Cheryl Strayed. So that was really incredible to get. I have also only owned the digital version of this book, and it is now in my possession, and it is Wild by Cheryl Strayed, also signed by the author. So I was just thrilled. I've read both of these books. It's just a wonderful, thrilling, amazing gift to have been given. And again, my father-in-law is really just absolutely known for giving unique, interesting, amazing gifts. And this was quite the surprise, and I'm so glad to have both of these in my collection. A gift from one of my students, which was very, very sweet and very, very thoughtful. Oh yeah, oh, he wrote in it. I'm not going to show you because it says his name, but he wrote in it, and it is called, it is this book all about the card catalog. It has this sleeve over it, and it is the card catalog, books, cards, and literary treasures. And it is photographs of card catalogs that are really interesting. And it was put out by the Library of Congress, which, talk about like dream job, dream everything. There, I haven't thumbed through it very much, but I am just so, I don't know, I'm just so excited to have it. So for example, there is a photograph of the vindication of the rights of women, or of woman, and it's by Mary Wollstonecraft. And so you see this, a photograph of the book. I don't know if it's the original manuscript or one of the first editions of it, and the library card that they have for it. Books are falling everywhere. So just gems like this. I did, again, thumb through it, so I know what it is, but my goodness, what a absolutely amazing, cool, fun book to have. So this is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. They have a print in it that shows an illustration from Moby Dick, the card catalog, a handwritten one, and like the cover of it. It's just a cool, a very cool book to have. So I just thought, I felt so seen, to be honest, when I received this from one of my students, and what a thoughtful gift from him and his mother and his family. A gift from a very, very, very dear friend. He sent me A Peculiar Combination by Ashley Weaver. This is Ashley Weaver's latest and ongoing mystery novels. I've heard only good things about this book and really about Ashley Weaver's writing in general. I heard she writes extremely quippy, awesome, wonderful banter. And so this is just so great. I've been more into mysteries this past year, and it was just wonderful to add one to my collection. Next up is a book that my husband got me. He doesn't really stay abreast of what I want or even what's on my wish list. He just finds out about a book that he heard about on the radio or in his readings, and often buys it blind for me. Like, he doesn't know, I mean, he knows about it and he can give me like an elevator pitch for it, but that's about it. And so sometimes it's pretty random. His books that he gives me are pretty random, which sometimes adds an extra level of delight. And so he bought me The Fraud by Zadie Smith. I'm reading this right now, and I am enjoying it. I'm about halfway through, actually. It's pretty good. I will definitely give you full, final, reviewed thoughts. Oh, yeah, and he is always like, it's a 50-50 chance as to whether you'll actually read it, Shelley. That's what he tells me. And I'm like, well, you know, so this is, it aired on the side of the 50% that I am reading, and so I'm so glad to have a copy. It's a beautiful copy, although I'm not a fan of the cover. I don't know who designed this atrocious thing, but it's very ugly. Which is okay, but I am liking the book, and I'll have, again, final thoughts when I wrap it up, probably at the end of January. And then I went book shopping, so I invited 5 books. Well, we're not doing numbers now, but I did buy 5 books. One is a reread that I owned on my Kindle, and I was so delighted to see it for a used copy, and I've actually already reread it, and it is 84 Charing Cross Road. There is a tradition here on BookTube among several booktubers and community members who read this book as their first book of the year. And for those who joined in, wow, what a lovely experience. I love this book more than ever. I actually gifted my mother a copy of this for Christmas, and I'm so glad that I did. It's just such a special book. It is, as a quick pitch, it is mostly made up of letters between a buttoned-up, straight-laced bookseller in London and a brash, loudmouth, tells it like it is writer in New York. And it is a wonderful account of their blooming and ever-growing friendship over, I think, about 10 years. 84 Charing Cross Road was actually the first book that I bought for this book haul. I did some book shopping at the very end of 2023, and it was one of my goals to unhaul a bunch and to get some books. And so it was really interesting to pick up some books that it was like, you know, what do I want? What will be a long-lasting desire? If I don't get to this for a couple of years, it's okay, but what will withstand perhaps my own desires? You have to do some soul searching, or at least some illuminated guessing that I will feel like I will forever, you know, that this will be evergreen in my heart of desires, that it won't fall out of favor in terms of books that I want to read. And so I definitely had a couple of directives. Actually, all of these books I would believe are considered either very, very modern classics, or books that I think I will long-term want to read. Again, it's hard because if I just go into a bookstore and I don't have any direction, I'll tend to be like a ravenous pup. I'll want to just consume all of it. And so books that I just recognize the title or I have a passing interest in, without discretion, I'll sort of load up the books in my arms, take them to the counter, and want to buy them. This time around, I had a very specific budget. I knew I didn't want to go over a certain amount. I wanted to spend about $20. I had some book credit. The way that my bookstore works is that they take half of the money in credit, and then you have to pay half of the money in actual dollars. So you are spending some money. So I knew that that's what I wanted. And, you know, so it was very, just, it was the thing, you know, it was the thing. I just didn't want to spend too much money. And I didn't want to get books that were just a passing whim. So I had to come in thinking critically, and this is what I came out with. First one is Sergio Dvorak. Actually, yeah, again, chose very, very modern classics or classics. So Sergio Dvorak is definitely my most classic, and it's by Edmund Rostand. This showed up as one of Deea at the channel Novel Ideas, one of her favorite books for the year. It is a play. It is about Sergio Dvorak is one of those plays that I feel like everybody knows, but it's a man who is perceived as not very attractive, but he's a very good writer, and he sends someone out that is attractive, taking letters to his love, I believe, the woman that he loves. Again, this is like the elevator pitch that I could tell you, but I don't know what it actually is or the nuance that it has because I haven't read the book. But essentially, he uses someone else. He uses a more conventionally attractive man to deliver letters that seems like it's from the conventionally attractive man to the woman that Dvorak loves. And essentially the woman, I think at first might love the conventionally attractive man, but eventually falls in love with the letter writer, who is not the conventionally attractive man, but someone who would be considered not attractive. So I don't know, again, that's like what I know of the book, but who knows what actually is contained in these pages. And Deea, who has impeccable taste when it comes to books, and she reads so widely, she reads so much, that when this popped up as one of her favorites for the year, I was like, I want that. Like, I want that. I want to actually know the story, not just the elevator pitch for it. And then I was like, look, girl, if there is a section in your library that needs some growing, not that any of it needs any growing, but if there is any, then it would be the science fiction fantasy part of my library. It's something that I always have a passing interest in. I would not be surprised if it's because the roots of YouTube started out as fantasy. Like, YouTube really got its, BookTube on YouTube got its start in fantasy. There was like, the videos that got millions of views were straight up YA fantasy, young adult fantasy books, or Harry Potter. And so there is, again, a very strong current of fantasy here on BookTube, and I think that does influence me. But I was like, if there's one thing that I should read more of, it's science fiction fantasy. And I saw this on Jess at Stocking Cough. the channel Stalking Kafka. The channel Stalking Kafka, ran by Jess. Her daughter said that this was one of her favorite books of the year. She made a great video talking about the books that her and her daughter loved in 2023. And it was great. Great banter, great conversations that came from it. And so this was one of her daughter's favorites. And I was like, I've never read that. It's considered a classic of the genre. And those tend to be evergreen in my heart. And why not? Just why not? And so it's the first book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams. I am excited to have this. I think it'll be good for like a quippy, interesting, absurdist read. On that same vein, but perhaps a little more different, a little bit different, is Ursula K. Le Guin's Left Hand of Darkness. So this is classic of the genre. I feel like I still haven't read any Ursula K. Le Guin, and that needs to change, like, now. And then I also have a book that is a nonfiction from an author that I feel like is just for me, and one of her books is on one of my lists for this year in terms of goals, and I just was like, I never find her books secondhand, and so I saw it and I felt like fate was tempting me, and I just went for it. And it is Svetlana Alexievich's Secondhand Time, The Last of the Soviets. So she does, Svetlana Alexievich won the Nobel Prize in Literature for her writing, her nonfiction writing that comes off as like oral histories. So this is one of her oral history books in that sort of, multi-voiced type of style that she is known for. I say this and I still haven't read one of her books. So I need to really rectify that and get that together, but I have another one waiting for me when I'm ready for it. Okay, numbers. In terms of December, I unhauled 17 books and I hauled 16, and that includes gifts and the books that I bought, So my balance, I have one less book than I started out December with, which is fine. And then in terms of TBR, to be read, I had 234 books that I counted up and that I considered my books. These are my personal reads that I chose, I want to read, and so on. So I unhauled 4 books that I hadn't read and that I came to terms with in my own self that I wasn't going to read. I read 3 books from my to be read stack, my unread books. I read 3 books that were previously unread. And I was gifted 9. And I'll show you the books that I would consider mine that I haven't read yet and that are going to be my books that I want to read. Love Came Down at Christmas, the Fern books, the Fern Press books, the Fern Press books that, the translated books. All of the books that I bought myself, sans 84 Charing Cross Road, because that was a reread for me. So these are considered what I chose myself that I want to read. The Fraud by Zadie Smith and A Peculiar Combination. And if I counted right, I have added 9 books to my TBR. And so that leaves us with a balance of 2 more books on my TBR that I had, like, so 2 more added to my list that I didn't, plus 2 to my giant TBR, to borrow a phrase that Alice from the Giant Bookshelf says all the time. And so now I have 236 books that I want to read that are considered mine. And I think that's it. So I have a bunch of, lots of new things, lots of changes as I stumble through this new format of book stuff. But yeah, that's it for me. So thank you. What have you acquired recently? Tell me, what have you bought? What's going on with you in your book world? How many books do you have unread? Did you add a lot during this holiday season? How are you mitigating that? All of this is part of my Project Shelf Aware. I will leave the intro video to that down below. It's just being aware of the books that I want to read, that are mine. And now, instead of 234, I have 236. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye!